Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to a special episode with my friend Mo. I met Mo in a local real estate community that we both joined, and we had phone calls and messaging back and forth. So I've known Mo for several months now, and Mo has a very unique story, something that recently happened, and I wanted him to come on the podcast, and he agreed to really inspire as many people as possible through his story and really share what actually happened. So, Mo, why don't you give us a little bit of your background, who you are, your family, et cetera, what you do, and then let's get right into it.
Right on. So awesome to be here. As Alex said, we've known each other for a while. Background, my wife and I started investing around 2015, took it really seriously around end of 2020, and that's when we started getting to know folks like Alex and the community. Right now, we just finished off a duplex conversion. We're concentrating on multifamily. My wife also does some property management. And me and a couple of partners just incorporated in the U.S. to do syndications. It's a little too early to really say anything because it's in the early stages. But that is for the next 12 to 24 months, my major concentration is going to be in the U.S. and syndication.
Awesome. So you guys are all in on real estate, and that's the main focus.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
Awesome, man. So let's go back to the last 3-4 months. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, crazy, and actually, it's almost like a great segue because what happened to the young football player, Damar Hamlin, essentially happened to me, and it was a very hard day for me when I saw it. And as I was seeing the updates on Twitter, and I was talking to my wife, she was telling me I went through the exact same steps. So to pretty much take you guys back, Remembrance Day, I was putting my young kids, I was buckling them up in the car. My wife usually takes them to the school bus in the morning. And that's about as much as I remember. And everything else that I'm going to tell you is secondhand to me. But essentially, I dropped suddenly. My wife looked over, and I was sweating. It turned red. And eventually, I started having seizure-like symptoms, even like foaming at the mouth. And she just didn't know what was happening. She screamed. And it's like everything was set up that day and everyone was in their place because a police officer who really had no reason to be there was chatting with the cross guard. And she heard my wife scream and she ran, and she was without her, the outcome probably would have been worse because she started CPR right away. And just bystanders, great neighbors came. I think like 12 people called 911. First responders came. My heart had stopped for about 7 minutes. So I had what they call sudden cardiac arrest. So for 7 minutes, so it's not a heart attack. And I found out afterwards that there's a major difference between the two, where a heart attack, you can have a major heart attack that could, take your life right away. But a sudden cardiac arrest, essentially, your heart just stops beating. And there's no oxygen to the brain, so the brain starts to shut down, right? So 7 minutes, first responders got there as fast as they could. It also didn't help that it was school time, so in our area, so it was very hard for first responders to get there. So kudos to them for getting there. It took 3 defibrillations before they were able to get a heart beat and resuscitate me. And then they rushed me to Oakville Hospital, where, I didn't, from reading the notes, it didn't look good. The doctor, the first attending doctor, said just from medical literature, someone that has not had oxygen for 7-8 minutes, plus the ride there and so forth. So from there, again, like I know that the audience might be from different backgrounds, but we are Middle Eastern, and we are very, I would say, faithful and religious. So upon hearing this news, my wife, her first instinct was to call our priest to come, just in case it was the worst case scenario. And it triggered events that really were, to me, miraculous. So again, from the police officer being there to our local priest calling a doctor who worked at the hospital, who then called a doctor that worked in the ER, who came in to calm my family down. And then they started doing tests. So before giving up hope, so again, at this point, I'm out. So all this is not me. It's not a recollection. This is the story that I was told. And essentially, without getting into the minutia, but they did all types of scans. So they did the brain and they did the spine, lungs. So they were looking for blood clots, tumors, anything like that. And they came back and said the good news is it doesn't seem like there's brain damage. There isn't brain hemorrhaging, but the brain is swollen, so we can't really do an MRI. So I guess about an hour and a half in ER, I got rushed up to ICU, where the cardiologist did some tests. And at that point, they said that the structure of the heart seems strong enough and fine. Obviously I was on a ventilator for a while. The neurologist is the one that had the most concern because obviously the brain. So they put me in a medically induced coma, sedated me. I actually got to the maximum level of sedation. There was no more anything more, and you would get to failure of your internal organs. And I was on a paralytic because they took the means of freezing my body. The whole goal was they didn't want blood supply to go anywhere except the brain. Well, the majority of it, right? So again, they put me into a hypothermic state, and it's crazy how the body does react. I have no consciousness, but my wife tells me I start to shiver because the body just reacting like archaically. So they had to give me a paralytic for a day. So now I'm paralyzed as well, so that I don't shake. I think at the most, I think I was on like 14 different medications through IV, and I was on a breathing tube, a ventilator to help me breathe, and a feeding tube. So again, if you followed DeMar Hamlin, the football player, if you saw any of the updates, essentially whatever you read there is what I went through. And a couple of days in, they do the MRI, which, again, as this is happening, my family and a lot of friends and people I don't know just started praying the power of prayer. And again, like I said, I'm sure the audience has different views. So I'm telling my experience. So my family was praying, family overseas, friends, and so forth. And I do believe there was some divine intervention there. The scans come back clear, but we're still not out of the woodworks because the neurologist still cannot predict what type of state I'll come out of. So they always have to give you the worst case scenario because they're professionals, right? At the end of the day, right. They also don't want to give false hope to a family beyond all the legal implications, obviously. So he did prepare my family for the worst, that I could come out with very minimal brain capacity or physical capacity. I can come back with full capacity, but not remember anyone. So there was a lot of unknowns. And then it got even a little bit more tricky because, as they told me, every time they would take me off sedation, I would still have seizure-like activities, even though as of now, most of the when I was discharged, they don't think I had a seizure. This is the brain reacting to inflammation and so forth and the trauma. So I went in and out of a coma as they were trying to figure out what's happening. And little did we know that by doing that to a human being, you can actually start damaging their brain. So, I'm trying to get as intimate as possible so you guys sort of go with the journey with me.
Wow.
Because, when I was hearing it, my eyes were like, what? But they did come at one point and say, look, we can only do this a couple of more times. And after that, I'm sorry, you might have to make a tough decision. And through the grace of God, through the works of the doctors, again, we'll give everyone the credit here. They sat down, the neurologist and I believe his nurse practitioner, and they realized that there were medications given to the heart for the heart and medications given for seizures. Because again, they couldn't at that point. They could not figure out exactly what happened. So they're treating worst case scenario. Even if I don't have a seizure, it's not like this medication is going to damage your brain. But they realized that these medications stand alone are the best for, a heart condition or epilepsy or seizures or whatever. But together, one blocks the effects of the other.
Oh.
So luckily for me, the doctor noticed that and he switches the medication. And that's when I come out of, they take me out of sedation. I start reacting. Again, I was told that I was being asked to stick out my tongue, move my arms, this and that. I have no recollection of this. So it's crazy how you can do things without memory. And yeah, I mean, I would say it was probably the scariest moment of my life because I woke up. The first thing I was able to see was industrial pot lights, which is the ceiling of my room.
Right.
What seemed like a warehouse, because obviously now my perception is shot. And I'm hearing someone say, give him more fentanyl. And I'm panicking because I'm like, fentanyl, where am I? And I'll be honest with you, Alex, my first thought was, and I know every time I say this, people are like, oh, you're nuts. I thought I got kidnapped and someone was harvesting my organs. I didn't know where I was. I couldn't speak because I still had the intubator down my throat. And luckily, my uncle, who flew all the way from Hungary, he's a doctor, called out my name. And that calmed me down. And I was like, okay, so why is my uncle here? And then he started explaining to me, like, hey, you're in a hospital. You can't move your arms because you're tied down, because I guess I tried to remove the intubator. He explained to me what all the sounds and noises were, and that it's only going to be maybe another half a day or day. And it was, I think, about 10 hours before they took the intubator out. Even when they took me off the sedation, they told my family it could be anywhere from 72 hours to 3 months that someone can come out of this coma. It took me, I think, 72 minutes to get out of it. So I was eager to come back to life. And yeah, I saw my wife. I looked around and I said, where am I and what happened? And slowly by slowly, obviously they were instructed not to just come out and divulge everything because, you don't want to shock the person back into something else.
Okay.
So slowly by slowly, I got there, and eventually they tried everything. They checked my cholesterol, they checked my arteries, they were dumbfounded, and eventually I got lucky enough that I was able to get an MRI in about 10 days. Some people could take them up to 2 months. But I had to stay at the hospital because they couldn't release me just in case this repeat itself. And eventually they found that there was the heart condition that I was born with. And the solution around it, I know it's going to sound a little crazy, but I do have a device that sits on the outside of my rib cage and up into my upper heart, or midway in the heart. And it's essentially a defibrillator. So what happened that day is that my heart rate, because of this condition, went up to about 270 beats per minute.
Holy cow.
A regular heartbeat should be 75. If you're working out and you're not in great shape, you might get to 140.
Got it.
But yeah, I mean, the doctors cleared me. They said there was nothing I could have done or not done.
Really?
And they said it was going to happen. Some people go through with this condition their whole life and they nothing ever happens to them. But yeah, I mean, it did teach me a lot. And I'll leave. I know I haven't had a chance to ask you any questions, but I'll leave you with this one as this story. I had about a 6% chance of survival.
That's
So,
wild.
yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Mo, what is the heart condition called?
So it's part of the myopathy family.
Okay.
The exact condition is called left ventricular non-compaction cardiomyopathy. It is such a rare condition that a few doctors that were in the hospital had to actually Google it, or I would hope it wasn't just regular Google.
I bet you it was.
Yeah, even the hematologist, like, I never heard of this. It's such a rare condition. And essentially, I won't do it any justice if someone wants to Google it, but essentially, when the heart's being formed in the womb, it's very soft, and it has eaves and troughs, right? Or valleys and peaks and valleys.
Okay.
And as you're born, in the first few years, it hardens up, and essentially you get, like the two ovals or even like the heart shape, but it's nice and solid, so the electricity can bounce off, the blood flow can go properly. With what I have is the bottom of my the left chamber of my heart, which is responsible for the electrical pulses of your heart, never hardened. So because of that, it sometimes doesn't pump properly. And once that happens, it leads to what is called ventricular fibrillation, which essentially is, as my cardiologist elegantly put it, he said, you had a bad circuit. So the first pulse, the first electrical pulse goes boom, boom, boom. And then the next one goes, okay, he wants me to do that. So it does that. And there's 6 of them. And then eventually it just keeps going faster and faster. And the heart muscle doesn't understand what it's happening. It's like, I can't pump as quick as you're firing, right? It's almost like if you're a car person, it's like your head gasket is starting to go. So it's like there's a misfire. And eventually the heart just decides, okay, I can't keep up with this. So it stops pumping. And when it stops pumping blood. No oxygenated blood goes to the brain. And the reason, again, I keep bringing up the young football player, but people that have sudden cardiac arrest tend to like fully like drop, either backwards, forwards, whatever, because your brain shuts. So it's like now you've lost all consciousness. You know what I mean? So it's not like when you get a heart attack where you hold your chest and you're down. It's essentially just like a boom. Luckily for me, because I was putting my kid in the car, I was angled, so I dropped this way. Had I been straight and dropped back, what I would have hit is the first step in our home, which is pure concrete, which probably would have done a lot of damage.
No kidding. So were you considered dead?
Clinically dead. So we've been told there's a differentiation, right?
Okay.
Doctors don't like to use the word dead until it's you haven't. So, but
until it's final.
I was clinically dead in the sense that there was no heartbeat. The brain was shutting down. But yeah, so clinically I was for 7 minutes.
Wow. Okay. And what day did you come out of the coma? So this happened November 11th. When did you come out?
So it was the 17th of November, or the 18th. To be honest with you, that was the one answer when the neurologist came in and he was trying to test my memory and so forth. That was the one day I didn't know. And I told him it's because I don't know when I came in. I believe it was either the 17th or the 18th that I came out of the coma. Definitely then the World Cup, I think, started on the 21st because I was watching the first game in ICU and I was fully aware of what I was doing. So I think it's either the 17th or the 18th.
So you were in a coma, like you were out for about a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just making notes.
I'm on the road to recovery, but sometimes, I'll get winded. And, in the start, it was a scary thing. But then after we met the cardiologist, he explained to us that that's pretty normal because, as I said, I on a ventilator for about a couple of days. I was, bedridden for a while. So he said, you're deconditioned, right? So it's, you start to really appreciate the human body as a machine, right? So once it doesn't need something, even when I came out, I had lost some muscle on my legs, and I asked the physiotherapist, like, is this normal? She's like, yeah, when the body doesn't need something, it just doesn't use it up, or, if it lacks energy somewhere, it might use the muscle for energy, whatever it is, right? Because at that point I was on a liquid diet, right? So it's quite fascinating, how the human body was created, and how it functions.
Wow. That is insane, man. Oh my goodness. So you had a very meaningful Christmas.
Oh yeah, no, it was beyond meaningful. I mean, I had the whole family over. My brother, who recently moved to Yellowknife, I mean, he came down for this, and for anyone who lives up north, you'd appreciate there, especially in the winter, there isn't direct flights. So it took him like 28 hours to go from Yellowknife, I think, to Calgary to Toronto, and then going back. But he came for Christmas, him and his wife. My mom was here. So my father passed away 10 years ago, but my sister and the family, even my nephews, who were like, you usually are too cool, and they're in that age where it's like, I don't want to hang out with the family. Everybody came. We had matching pajamas that said "Believe." Couple of friends who don't have family here, they came over, extended family. So yeah, I know it was definitely special. Having my kids just, being there, and that was the hardest part, to be honest with you. When I came out of the coma and I started to comprehend what happened, I think the hardest part, and I got more emotional in the fact that I thought of my children. And one day my mother was like, why, like, what's hurting you? And I said, just the idea of my kids not having a dad. This would have probably been much easier if I didn't have kids. Right.
Of course.
And the fact that they saw everything, is still haunts me. But, kids are more resilient than we think. And, people try to shelter their kids, but they know they know something happened, and they're really dealing well with it. And we're doing our best to always reassure them that we're good. But my older daughter, who's only 5, always like waits for me at the door. She's like, I stand behind me, Daddy, just in case you fall, I'm gonna catch you. And it's the cutest thing. Very special Christmas. Yeah, for sure.
Mo, I've got a daughter who's 7, and I believe every man should have a daughter.
100%. 100%. I got 2 of them, and I said the exact same thing when I came out. Like, I've always been bugging my wife of like, let's try it for baby number 3, because as a man, you want that boy. But I looked at her and I said, you know what? Daughters just have a way of taking care of their dad, even if they're that young.
They change you. They soften you.
Yeah, in a good way, in a very good way.
And only good.
Yeah.
So, Mo, this experience is wild. How did it change you?
Oh, 180. I mean, from a practical point of view, the first thing that it did is it slowed everything down in life. So I'm a sports guy, and growing up, you always heard, what makes the greats is they slow down, they slow the speed of the game comes to them, and that was the first thing is, everything slowed down for me. I even took 2 weeks from work and investment talk, everything. I was like, I just need to relax. So I slowed things down. The other thing is you really start to appreciate what you have, the people around you. And as far as spiritual, it brought me back into my younger self. And when I say younger, I mean really young. Where we went to church every Sunday. My parents, I grew up in a conservative household, so I'm not going to say that I'm I'm going to join a monastery or anything like that. But I definitely appreciate my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and before I would probably be scared to say it. And now it's just like I say it as my belief, not to disrespect anybody else or to say that I'm better than you, but I feel like he didn't deny me that day, so I won't deny him. But then outside of that, as you and I are in investment circles, I started to appreciate who's in the circles, and I started knowing that there's inner circles of inner circles, and social media is fantastic for brand awareness, for brand awareness and promotion. And obviously all of us as investors, you follow winners. So we want to put on, our game face. But at the same time, what I realized is, not everyone is Michael Jordan. There's guys that played in the NBA. Not everyone's Gretzky, but there's guys that have great careers, but might have not been the greatest, and it took them some time to get there. So it was humbling for me. I didn't need to be the all. I know what my strengths are. I know my capabilities. As I said, my two partners would have not brought me in to get into syndication in the US if they didn't believe in me, and vice versa. It's just, I felt like everyone talks about financial freedom and getting your time back, but a lot of us are chasing. And it's like, I just replaced the rat race of the 9 to 5 or the rat race in trying. So, I sat down and I was talking to my wife, Nancy, and I said, what if we get one multifamily a year? That gives me 12 months, right? And at the end of the day, I look back at it and I said, when we first joined, these mentorship programs, they asked us what our why was. And my why was my children, as a lot of people. And I made it more than clear from the start. I don't want, family trust kids that are just going to be spoiled. I don't care how much money I have or don't have. My kids are getting jobs. And if I have to sit outside so that, for safety purposes, I'll sit outside. But what I wanted is to make sure that I left them something, some type of legacy. I know a lot of people use the word privilege. To me, there's nothing wrong with it, because I'm working hard so my kids can have the best, but it's how I bring them up. So just because you have it doesn't mean that you can't be humble. We started this a couple of years ago where we were going to a Canadian Tire and we saw Halton police outside, and we thought there was something there. And then as we got closer, we realized it was a toy drive, and kids were 4 and 3. And we just said, hey, we're going to go in and we're going to buy gifts, but they're not for you. They're for other people. So, we've done a good, sorry, not doing a good job. We've tried our best to humble them from a young age. But when I thought about it, I was like, well, what's my why? My kids, and leaving them something. And then what I realized is I have enough real estate right now for my kids to be happy and comfortable for a very long time. So why not just slow down a little bit and actually, look at the deals better and make sure that you're not chasing. So
at the end of the day, the goal doesn't have to be exchange one rat race for another and make as much money as possible. Like you talk about legacy, and yes, like I want to leave a legacy for my kids too, financially, but more important, I want to leave the legacy here and 100%. Here, right? I want to pass my faith down to my children. I also am a Christian. I believe in Jesus. And one of the reasons I started this podcast is a way of impacting the world and doing what I believe God has called me to do. And so this is the legacy, like this, and this is what I believe that you want to do, that you're thinking way past the money at this point. Right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's one of the biggest learnings, is that financial freedom doesn't always have to mean that you're you're a multimillionaire, because sometimes if we sit back, if we sold our primary residence in the height of this insane market in 2021, or even at the peak in March of 2022, and moved maybe 60 kilometers away, we could have had a comfortable life. But that's what I started to learn, is that financial freedom doesn't always have to be you being rich. All right. It's being able to do, things that you want to do and impact people. And again, these friends, families, strangers that were praying for me, messages. I mean, you reached out, other people reached out, but it's this ability of impacting, and it doesn't always have to be financial. You know what I mean? So this is what I learned, is that money doesn't make or break you. So yeah, and people probably, if they're friends with me on Facebook, they've noticed I've slowed down my posting. I again, if you post, that's fine. I'm not saying not, but for me, it's part of my healing. It's part of my slowing down. I wanted to post when Damar Hamlin went down, but I was like, you know what? It's his moment. So I just didn't want to distract. I was like, it's his moment. The kid needs to heal. Again, that was probably harder for me to deal with than it happening to me, because I didn't see me, but I saw him. Right. And then pictures started to come out as he was posting, and I kept looking at and Nancy, my wife, and asking, like, did I have that? Did I have this? Like, yep. And it's just like, wow, the humanity in you starts to kick in. And, I would love to reach out to him. I don't think it's going to be possible to meet him. But one of the things that I tell people, it's a strange feeling, because I'm in a very small group of people that have this experience. So it's very hard. Like me losing my father, when I got married, my wife also lost her father. They both died of cancer. It was easy to relate. Other people, 2 in 5 Canadians will be impacted either directly or indirectly with cancer. So we know it. Heart disease. But how many people can you say, yeah, hey, I died for 7 minutes and I came back? It's just, you just don't find that. No. So that's another lesson that I'm learning, is how to cope with this. Because to be honest with you, it's not easy. In the first, I would say 6 days of me being awake, I might've slept one night because I had fear of not waking up again.
Right. When
I came home for the first few days, I would not let my kids sleep in their room. I wanted them next to me. Right. Slowly now I'm moving away from that. Also, there's my partner. You know what I mean? Like, PTSD is real. And until this experience, it's not like I denied it. I just didn't understand it.
Right.
But I see her, right? It's hard on her. You guys can't see it, but on the side, I have a camera, because we had to break the mold of her staying with me all the time. She's got her property management company. She's doing stuff. And we had this conversion that closed. So we needed people to go and stuff. So I said, hey, I'm going to put this camera here. And I sit in my office. If I move to the living room, I put it there just to give her some relief. And in the start, I would be like, can you just leave? Don't worry. Don't. But slowly I started to realize I didn't see what she saw. Right. Just like when sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and she'll notice, like, hey, why are you up? And I go, I can't sleep. It's hard for me to explain to her why I can't sleep. But sometimes you just wake up and you're like, man, I appreciate being alive. So it's like you're up just because you feel alive, even though you're tired, right? So it's really weird. I don't know if there's ever, again, I don't know if I can find a support group, but doing stuff like this, again, I appreciate you reaching out, man, because I want to tell the story, because I just want to let people know that there's still really, I feel like we're living in a divisive time where everyone is being judged on, are you an investor? Are you right wing? Are you left wing? Are you this? Are you that? And I think what I learned out of all this is humanity is good. That cop, those doctors, didn't know my political affiliation, my religion, my sexual orientation, nothing. It's just everyone came in and said, "Hey, we got to help this person out," and that's beautiful because I feel like we need that. And I commend you for your podcast because it's inspiring, right? And we need more good news. So yeah, I really appreciate you bringing me on.
You know what, Mo? I think God has given you a message He wants you to share, man.
I heard that and I believe it. It is a bit of a struggle for me because it's funny that you said that because I've asked him that question, but I left it in his hands. I said I'm going to be patient. Like I might not know the answer now, but yes, I do believe that there's something there. What it is, it might be this. It might be just this message, and I used to always say, people say, "Oh, if one person changes, it's fine." I used to be like, "People are so silly. What do you mean?" But now, no, I really get it because if one person changes, if one person was down, or if again in our investor circle, if someone was just like, "I don't know what I'm doing," or "Oh my God, all these people are closing deals and I'm not. Maybe I should quit." Hearing someone that's again another humbling thing is I came back to earth. I'm a seasoned investor. Yes. Are there people way more seasoned than me? Absolutely. But at least now I feel like I can share with someone that, hey, if you're not closing a deal a month, you're not failing. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Or at work, if you're not whatever, don't worry about it. It's just the race. Don't race with yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's not healthy, and you're not gonna get anywhere. And I feel like when you race and you're in that rat race and you're in that competition, when you don't get it, your down becomes really down because now you start doubting yourself. Where if you had just made a plan, or as for me now, it's like
and comparing.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. So to me now, the pressure is gone. I'm like, I have a whole year, right? My business partners and I, like, we have a business plan for the US. We sort of know when we believe the market is going to bottom, whatever, but we've given ourselves a year. So, this way, when I look at deals, I'm relaxed. If it makes sense, I can take 5 days to underwrite it. Not like I need to underwrite now because it's going to go off the market.
Right.
When I hear people are closing, especially if it's big deals, I clap. I'm like, yes, good. It's not like before I wasn't. It's not like it's not like I ever wish bad on someone. It would trigger me to going, man, they did it. I need to do it. Mm-hmm. Right. And then, as I said, you put that pressure on yourself, and sometimes it's like, it's just not your time. And that's another thing that everyone kept on me. It just, it wasn't my time to go. So I came back. So I take that as a lesson too, that sometimes in life, in work, whatever, it just might not be your time. Don't give up. And if you put the bar high, but don't put it so high that, or I don't know how to say this, like put it high, but if you don't get there, it doesn't mean you failed. Right. So,
And it's interesting because stories like these, Mo, give people perspective of what really matters. Like at the end of the day, what really matters?
Yeah, you're 100% right, and I can tell you that the first day. So after I got out of ICU, because the kids wanted to see me, in ICU I was like, I had so many things plugged to me, and I just told Nance like, this is not the time. And then when I got moved to the normal ward, where essentially I was moved to a ward until I got my surgery, so I was just on watch, so I wasn't getting any treatment, right? So the kids came, but. Yeah, the first minute that I saw them, obviously I teared up. But yes, what's important in life? Look, it's different for everyone because some people don't have kids, or some people have kids that are older. But you're right; it's at the end of the day, what's important, because you can be a millionaire, a billionaire, but once you're gone, right? So now, as I said, I appreciate my time, I appreciate my family, I appreciate people that are in my life. And yeah, if I don't close another deal for the rest of my life, I'm fine with it.
And it's interesting too, because we're each running our own race. Our life looks totally different than one another's. Like, I stopped going on social media other than to just follow up with close friends and to post because I start comparing. Okay, I had a bad year, right? I lost my business. I'm not investing in real estate right now. And to a certain extent, that really pains me because I want to be. And I actually can't right now. And it's so important to remember that we're running our own race because comparing, it only tears yourself down. It only
Yeah.
makes you feel bad. Like you should be doing more, but should you be doing more? Is that the right decision for you? Right? And so I think that's awesome. And then, and then perspective's everything. Like we all need a perspective adjustment.
Right.
Like, I'm interviewing you right now. I lost everything materially. You lost your health. Who lost more? How do you put a value on that?
Yeah.
And now God is restoring both of us.
Right.
Right? Like it is awesome. Like life isn't over. God has a plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah. No, I agree. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, again, without sounding like I'm preaching, the first thing I read when I came home was the book of Job, just because I felt like it I can relate to it, where it's the physical and it was the material for him, and I don't think you can put a value on either one. Obviously, you being alive is more valuable than a building. But at the same time, having financial stability is also important, right?
Extremely.
So I fully appreciate where you're coming from, right? And everyone's journey is different. So the one thing that I started to say is I'm no longer in a race. You know what I mean? I call it a journey now because some people will finish, they'll be ahead of you in the journey, but you're just writing your own script. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I tend to use sport analogies a lot, but, I'm a Calgary Flames fan. And I don't think anyone is ever, people like Jerome McGinley. I don't think he's ever going to be put in the same sphere as a Crosby or a Gretzky. But even with the Crosby analogy, the golden goal, nobody remembers who gave the assist. But if you watch that play over and over, if McGinley doesn't do what he did, right? But in his mind, he can, in that situation, you can be happy at what you did and satisfied, like, hey, I did my part. Or you can live envious of that, hey, I didn't get the glory. And that's where I've changed. It's like, it's my journey. I will look at everyone else and celebrate with them, right? If there's a place where I can help, again, as people were calling and talking, and I was just telling them, like, hey, you know what, if you didn't close that deal, or if you didn't get this promotion, or you didn't get this car or whatever, it's like, don't worry, it just might not be your time, right? So that's just, to me, what has changed in my life is, as I guess as people would say, I matured really quick. I'm not a young guy. I'm 42, but I'm not old. But I feel like I matured really quick. Even losing my temper. I'm a very passionate person. So there's times where I'll even if it's not an argument, even if it's not a fight. If I'm talking, I use my hands. I'm very very Middle Eastern. You know what I mean? Very Mediterranean. But now I just you just don't need it. There's time where you need it. Someone is about to run on the street. But yeah, I could tell you that that keeping your heart rate down and just relaxing is really important in everything. And like you said, just looking around you and being thankful. And at the end of the day, if your journey means that you end up not being a real estate investor, but you're satisfied with your life, your family, your kids grow up well, you pass on great lessons to them, then what does it matter if your neighbor is a multimillionaire? Because again, I'm the perfect example. we're sitting on a decent sized portfolio. But guess what? In a split second,
it can be all taken away.
Yeah, both ways, like the material and the physical, and that I think was the biggest shock, because you don't realize how quick it happened, because everyone's like, "But bro, you must have felt something." I said, "No." Like, you must. I'm like, "No." And when I went to see my cardiologist, I asked him. I said, "Hey, is this something that you would feel?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Probably not." So he's like, "I'm not surprised that you don't remember the moment, right?" So that's how quick things can happen to you. So yeah, again, it's like my journey is my journey.
And I think it's really healthy to remember in the back of your mind that our mortality is real. We don't know how much time we have.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think one of the most important things is ending well in your life. You know, like me and you share the same faith, and, serving God to the best of our abilities and living without regrets in that. Like, what else matters?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as I got home and I was talking to my wife, I said, it's ironic because the one verse that I always recited was, I come like a thief in the night. And that's exactly what I felt happened to me. But to bring it back to even real estate, and again, I really do appreciate that you've been very candid about your journey, because a lot of people tend to want to turtle or hide or blame or whatever. So I really do appreciate you for doing that. But at the same time, it's also another lesson in what we do in life, from real estate to, if you have if you like to buy watches or shoes or whatever, if you over leverage, it can get taken right away. And that's the same thing with your life, when you just feel like, I'm untouchable, or I'm doing great, look at me, this and that.
The pride.
Yes. And then, you can get smacked real quick. But at the end of the day, I also think the how you deal with it. So I think both you and I, are dealing with it in what I would believe is a humble and proper way. There, like, I could have easily been like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'm back. I'm this. Look at me. I'm a champ and this." But being humble and just being grounded, I think is just, at least for me, it's made life so much simpler.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy for everybody. It's just, your success is your success. If there's losses, I'm here to help, or at least you can look at me and say, "Hey, he could have lost everything." But yeah, man, I honestly, some people would say, like, this was one of the scariest things to happen to me, and it was. But 180, man, 180.
Wow.
Is where I'm at now.
So Mo, as we finish off, how does 2023 look different than 2022 for you?
As I said, the biggest thing is from a personal side. I'm putting a lot of effort in spending a lot of time with my kids, a lot of time with my wife, my family, really quality time, putting down the electronics, getting back into arts and crafts,
making memories,
right?
Yep.
So I wanna live life and experience life rather than experience it through the lens and looking at the pictures and the videos, which is, I find, what a lot of us do now. The other is just shutting down the part of the brain that worries about things you have no control over, right? I can't control, yes, I have a vote, but I can't control who the next prime minister is. I can't control what war is going to happen or inflation. All I can do is adapt to it. Yep. From a professional side, as I, not sound like a broken record, but I really, like I said, I slowed down. My goal is very realistic. If 3 deals come my way that makes sense and I can close on them, I'll close on them. But I am no longer in the state of, I'm not in a hunting mood, right? But I'm out. I'm out in the jungle, and if there's a good kill, I'll take my shot. Other than that, I'm just enjoying the weather outside, and that's how I see it. I'm just, I'm taking it in. Like I said before, a deal would come my way.
Mm-hmm.
I can get up at 2:00 in the morning, like I got to underwrite this guy. I got to give an answer tomorrow. This and that. Now it's like, look, I'm gonna take 5 days, 6 days. I'm gonna do all my. First of all, I'm not gonna rush how I do it. I'm not gonna not spend 5 p.m., 7 p.m. with my kids because I need to underwrite this. I'll underwrite it in my own time. It takes cool. 5-6 days, and I put in an offer. If it's rejected or if it's already sold, it wasn't for me. It wasn't my time. So, just slowing it down and letting it come to me. And if it doesn't happen in 2023, I mean, knock on wood, there's still some time. So, my message would be for anyone is just let the game come to you. All the greats, that's what they always said when they were rookies or they were young. They were just going hyper speed. Once you can slow it down and make your decisions based on logic, not emotions, and not worrying that you need to get this so you can put it on your Instagram to say that I added more doors. So far it's been great.
And honestly, at the end of the day, when you've met all your money goals, what else is there?
Right.
I believe at the end of the day, people want impact.
Yep.
People want to change the world, make the world a better place. And so I love that. And I feel that is something you want to do, just like I do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, again, it's philanthropy has always been something that was near and dear to my heart. But again, I also realized that philanthropy doesn't have to be money, just like financial freedom doesn't have to be money. So yes, definitely, being able to be there for other up and coming investors or just people in general who might be struggling, even with their health, that there's hope. And even again, as I said, for those that have faith, my story is that I probably wasn't the best representation of what Jesus would want me to be. And this has changed me. It does make me appreciate life. Even beyond that, the diverse folks that helped me out, it was all races, all colors, all creeds. But then the day, as I said earlier, it really made me believe that humans are not as bad as social media makes us be, because, that's the other thing. I'm trying to stay off social media because you get sucked into the comments. And I don't know what it is about people, but when they're behind the screen, they just become so mean for no reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll leave you with this. I know we're running out of time, but, if you play fantasy football, you can appreciate that they made all these changes. And I'm scrolling, and one guy comes off and he's dropping F-bombs and saying, oh, I put $1,000 in this league and this guy gets hurt and now I got to lose my money. And I was sitting there and I looked at my wife and I said, did he really say that player just got hurt? I'm like, did you watch the same thing all of us watched? That kid dropped dead. I'm like, he didn't just get hurt. It wasn't a broken leg. Not that should be, looked at lightly, but man, it's just appreciate life, appreciate what you have. And nothing is worse your health being, jeopardized, or your, especially mental health. Cause sometimes, again, kudos to you. Like, I feel like this is an outlet for you. And I feel like it also helps others that can see you and go, okay, he lost everything, but he's still here. Cause that's, again, a lot of people, when it's between the ears and they start talking to themselves, and they can easily, say, okay, I want to end it now, or go down a dark path. Right.
Yeah.
Same like for people that have health issues. I mean, I could have easily turtled and been so scared and not want to leave home and not this and, and be paranoid. But at a certain point, I just realized, I got my meds, I got this machine, and my belief, I got him. So, at this point, I'm just going to live life to its fullest, and make memories, as you said, and be the best version of myself. And hopefully impact some people in a good way.
Mo, thank you for coming on, man. Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing this story. I believe being vulnerable, people can really appreciate it and connect with that. So thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Thank you for allowing me to share the story. And best we should stay in touch, and best of luck with 2023. And yeah, man. Again, appreciate your time and allowing me to come on.
Thanks, Mo. Awesome, guys. If you enjoyed this interview, please like and subscribe to my channel, support the journey, and have a great night.
Thanks.